Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV. Now, if you saw the episode 1 in this mini-series, you saw that we did speak about Ben White. A big thank you to everyone in the comment section who gave their feedback, who watched the video, and who rightly guessed who won or some. I'm not going to reveal too much, but who certainly guessed who the next player would be in this mini-series, and it is in fact William Saliba. You're going to be spotting trends, I'm sure, as these episodes drop in this 5-part mini-series that we're doing. But today, the focus is on William Saliba, 21. Is he still 21, right? Or is he 22? There you go. I'm not always the most researched in these videos. I try to be. But very young, 21, 22-year-old centre-back who is now playing week in, week out for Arsenal, who is at the World Cup, who is talked about in such glowing terms, who a lot of people feel that along with Jesus and Zinchenko have come in with a different mentality and an extra added quality that the team needed. A lot of people still point towards William Saliba as a big reason why Arsenal's fortunes have turned around so much this season, to a point where we missed out on top 4 and now there's legitimate talk about a title charge only, 5-6 months on from that disappointment at the end of last season. Now, William Saliba's had such a very interesting journey and story at Arsenal, because we signed him in the summer of 2019 and yet we've only got 14 Premier League games of football to actually judge him on. Let's remind ourselves of what happened. So at the age of 19, no, it wasn't 19, it was 18. At the age of 18, Arsenal signed him for around £27 million from St Etienne. And I remember at the time, it was a deal that Arsenal were very keen to do. Unai Emery was the manager at the time, but they knew it was one for the future. Raul Sanllehi was, I think, taking a big part in transfers at that point. I don't think Edu had arrived yet, or was just arriving. Sven Mislintat moved on. But this very much resembled Arsenal getting in ahead of the other big boys and going, no, there's a serious talent here. We want to bring him to the club. It was Arsenal acting in a way they haven't actually done. Pay £27 million for an 18-year-old, it's a big deal. And they did it, they got it done, and they sealed him. Now, Arsenal fans knew they'd have to wait a year before they saw him. They probably didn't expect they'd have to wait quite as long as they have. He did return immediately on loan to St Etienne, as I mentioned. He missed the French Cup final at Arsenal's request. It caused a little bit of back and forth between Arsenal and St Etienne. St Etienne weren't happy. But of course, we had that pandemic hit season. I think the Cup final sort of seeped into nearer when he might be available for Arsenal. Arsenal didn't grant the request for him to play. Came back, but didn't make a single first-team appearance. I think he got a game against the MK Dons in a friendly, but otherwise we didn't see him after that. And he was actually not denied a loans, but I think from what I remember, there were other deals going on. They didn't have the right loan for him, and he ends up not actually being part of. He wasn't a part of. He could have played in the Premier League, I think, because he was young enough. But anyway, the point is, he didn't get any minutes. He wasn't part of the Europa League squad. And he was basically playing academy football before he got a loan move to Nice. Now, he goes to Nice on loan for the second half of the season, comes back. Arsenal fans finally thinking, all right, he's had 2 loan spells. Surely now we'll see him. No, he goes on loan to Marseille. And this was another step up in terms of, okay, now you're playing in a team under Jorge Sampaoli that are going to go and maybe challenge PSG, that are going to be competing in European football. We know he played in the Conference League, and they're going to be at the very higher end of French football. And he was brilliant. And that rewarded him with his sort of first call up to the French squad, got his first cap for France. And he also won the Young Player of the Year award in France as well. So he really made the most of those loan spells, and it felt like a now or never moment with Arsenal. Surely he's delivered everything he can in these loan spells. Surely now he's going to get his opportunity at Arsenal. And boy, has he got his opportunity. Now, there was always a lot of hype around William Saliba. The Mbappe of centre-backs, people were saying. People were talking about him as the next Van Dijk, the kind of player who... He was the modern centre-back, great on the ball, incredibly quick, strong, physically imposing as well. The kind of player you wouldn't back yourself against him aerially. You wouldn't want to knock it past him, try and get round him, because he'll beat you for pace as well. He's stronger than you. All those things were fueling the William Saliba hype. And I have to say, since getting his first minutes in the Premier League and his first appearances for Arsenal, he's been nothing short of living up to that hype. Now, will he be the Mbappe of centre-backs? Who knows? But at the moment, he's made an absolutely electric start, and it started with that game against Crystal Palace. Now, I remember that game against Palace, his first Premier League start, and he was brilliant because Arsenal for the first half were on the front foot. They were pressing. They were playing the football in Palace's half. They get the goal. And he was doing a lot of just sweeping up, helping Ben White at times on that side against Wilfred Zaha, intercepting, winning the ball high up the pitch, sustaining attacks. But then the second half, when Palace put it on Arsenal weren't quite as refined at that point of the season as they were sort of maybe really for the rest of it. You saw him dropping back into a shape, working well with Gabriel and defending the penalty area brilliantly as well. He showed many sides to his game, and he brought plaudits from Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, and anyone who watched that game was incredibly impressed with what William Saliba delivered. And that kind of continued for the first 14 games of the season, and it brought numbers that I think are comparable to some of the best centre-backs in the league, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to have a look at his per 90 stats with Virgil van Dijk, Akanji at Man City, Lisandro Martinez, Thiago Silva, and Eric Dyer. Now, he doesn't come out as the best in all these numbers at all, but he is up there with them. So as you can see here, in terms of pass completion, 92.1%. Only Akanji has a better pass completion rate than Saliba per 90 in the Premier League. Progressive passing distance is good, better than Akanji's, better than Lisandro Martinez's, but Eric Dyer's, a little bit more long ball for Tottenham. Listen, maybe not. I'm just trying to get a little dig in there. But Van Dijk's as well, very impressive. He's not dribble pass often. Only Van Dijk has a better number in terms of how often he's dribble pass per 90 in the Premier League this season, which again is the kind of thing we were expecting of William Saliba when we said we were getting a player who, you don't want to take him on because he's quicker than you, because he's stronger than you. Again, some of those numbers there reflecting that. In terms of dribbles contested, 0.94. Again, bettered by Akanji, Lisandro Martinez, Thiago Silva, but very good numbers nonetheless, much higher than Van Dijk's and better than Eric Dyer's as well. If you're, by the way, wondering why I picked these centre-backs, I could have picked any, but I've just gone with centre-backs that are regulars and being very highly talked about for the way they're doing for their club. I know Van Dijk's not having the best season, but he was compared to Van Dijk, Saliba. Let's get his numbers in there. In terms of tackles in the attacking third, he does do a lot of his work there. Only Akanji with more tackles in the attacking third per 90. Saliba does have to do a lot of his football, a lot of his defending higher up the pitch. And we see that in ball recoveries. Look at that number, 8.67 ball recoveries per 90 compared to Van Dijk's, which is on 5.7. Akanji's with 5.1, 5.7 from Lisandro Martinez, 6.7 for Thiago Silva, and Eric Dyer with only 3.78. William Saliba registers 8.67 ball recoveries per 90. If that doesn't tell you how high up the pitch Arsenal are playing, how high up his defending is done generally for Saliba, but how often he's got to be running towards his goal to then sweep up and cover for the players in front of him. The only way you can play such a high line is if you trust not only, yes, the players to press, that's important, but you trust your centre-backs to sweep up. Otherwise, a couple passes, a long ball, and you're getting exposed in that area of the pitch. Let's show it on the tactical pad. Now, this is the shape we see Arsenal in. Zinchenko starting at left back there because generally that's what Arteta's gone with his best team. We saw Arsenal take this 11 and take this style of football to Stamford Bridge and play them off the park, if we're being honest. We didn't have an abundance of chances, but we controlled the game in the areas we want to control them. What do I mean by that? Well, let's get everyone up the pitch. We showed how Ben White can overlap. We illustrated that in the Ben White video. And when you have that, you've then got a situation in which all this space behind, let's show it in red, it's just left completely open. Oh, why is it not working? There we go. Now it's working. It's just left completely open for teams to expose. Now, if you've got an opposition that want to leave three up the pitch to try and counter, who want to leave players there that are maybe looking for that opportunity, want to go direct on the counter, that means that you're going to have situations in which, let's get rid of that, in which Gabriel's running back towards his goal, Saliba's running back towards his goal to cover when players are going forward. And that's what we mean by ball recoveries, is how many times that ball is coming back towards our goal and Saliba's having to sweep up and deal with it. It's a massive, massive part of his game. And because he's got that athleticism we mentioned, that intelligence as well, that understanding for when to press, when to sit off and just recover and deal with the situation after. Because he manages all those situations really, really well, Arsenal are able to press the way they are and be one of the sides that have the defensive record they've got, which we'll go into in a second, but are also managing to win the ball high up the pitch. Like I mentioned in that other video with Tomiyasu winning it high up the pitch. Arsenal then sort of sucker punching Nottingham Forest and scoring through Martinelli. The amount of times Arsenal have been able to just cause other teams problems by doing their defending right up near their goal where they don't want to be is a massive part of why Arsenal are having a massive start to this season. Now let's look at some of Arsenal's raw defensive numbers and look at their Premier League rank. Very simply, for goals conceded, we're joint first with Newcastle for conceding the fewest goals so far this Premier League season. Shots per game faced, we rank second. In terms of clean sheets, we rank first, again joint with Newcastle, but we rank outright first for away clean sheets. I think it's 6 clean sheets in 8 away league games, which is so impressive. Now, it's not all just Saliba. It's the shape. It's Xhaka and Partey and the way they tuck in and help. It's the way Odegaard presses from the front with the front four. It's the amazing work Gabriel has done defensively as well. But why are we talking about William Saliba in this video? It's because William Saliba is coming in a very young player with a lot of hype, and tactically it's very interesting what he's allowed Arsenal to do. We saw Gabriel the last 2 years. I think he's getting better and better, but William Saliba is a very interesting one to look at from a tactical perspective. And I think he's got a personality and a demeanour that is really crucial for Arsenal, because I think to win titles, to compete with the best, beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, beat Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. I think to do those things, be as controlled and commanding in a North London derby as we were, you've got to have players with William Saliba's character. When we beat Palace, it was kind of like his whole demeanour was like, yeah, that's just what I do. And I love that. And I think Arsenal need a little bit more of that. And I think you're actually seeing that in a lot of the players we've got now. But over the years, we've needed a little bit more of that. He's got this sort of almost, it's not arrogance, but this total belief and confidence in what he does. And when he scored the own goal, for example, against Leicester, the fans were amazing and picking him up and showing their support. But he just played his game the same way after. And then he scores a goal against Bournemouth, and then he scores a goal against Brentford as well, so he's contributing in that end of the pitch as well. He's been absolutely fantastic, William Saliba. He really has been. And I just want to highlight how Arsenal's high line is, and his ability to recover and use all his attributes of the game is so important to the way Arsenal are playing. And while I mentioned Ben White in terms of everything he offered, defensively as a shield and overlapping and being that creative outlet, I think Saliba being able to almost just lock things off when Arsenal are attacking and go, don't worry, we got things here. Me and Gabriel, we got things sorted here. With Partey in front as well, I think is a massive part of why Arsenal are playing the kind of football they're playing and why they've been so much more exciting this season. Now, there are a couple of things around William Saliba. Some of the goals we've conceded, you think of the one against Liverpool, for example, the Firmino equaliser. I wonder whether maybe there's times where it's not just him, it's Gabriel. We saw it with the Southampton goal we conceded there as well. I wonder whether there's moments where Arsenal are brilliant at pressing and they're brilliant at dropping into a really deep shape. But are they that good when it's kind of a little bit of both, if that makes sense, or a little bit of neither, let's say, where we're not quite parking the bus, we're not back into a defensive shape, but we're not pressing and we're sort of trying to be on the front foot, but we're having to drop deep for a second, and you get goals where maybe they just find a little bit of that space between centre-back and full-back and are able to punish us like the goals we've just shown you there. I wonder whether maybe that's something Arsenal still have to work on. But listen, Arsenal aren't the finished article. The fact that we've improved so much defensively as it is testament to the work Arteta and the coaching staff are doing, but the players as well. There is, of course, the contract situation. William Saliba, is he going to sign a new deal? The rumours are that he is. Suggestions are that he's happy. They're not rushing it, but ideally it's what he wants. We will see. We'll see. I think he is going to sign. But that is something that's kind of lingering as well with Martinelli and Saka, which is why the context at the beginning of this video that I mentioned in terms of his journey, the loan spells, the debates and questions over whether he should have been in the squad before, over whether Arteta believed in him, all these things. It might feel like it's answered now, but I think we're going to see a lot of that in this contract situation as well. Does he feel like he's got the belief and the opportunities and everything he needs? I believe from the outside he has. I believe he's been managed well, but it's down to him, and we'll see. I mean, I imagine there's going to be a long list and a whole host of clubs that are going to be wanting William Saliba. So will he sign? That's the big question. And of course, we'll be keeping you up to date with all that on AFTV. But guys, if you've enjoyed this video, episode 2 in this mini-series, you let us know. You let us know your thoughts on William Saliba, how impressive he's been. If you haven't checked out the Ben White video, go and check it out as well. It was a lot more tactical pad stuff in that one. A lot more kind of breaking down his role in the system. And yeah, I think it's an interesting watch. But you let us know your thoughts on that as well, guys. And then, yeah, episode 3 will come out. Shall I tell you what it's going to be about? Love the little clue. It's on a new signing. So I look forward to bringing you that one on Monday, guys. All right, we'll leave it there. A big thank you. Catch you on the next one.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.